These are unpublished pages from the Judo Master Origin issue for DC, which never got, they disbanded the project before it even came out.
What an honor to interview a legend like Frank McLaughlin. Born in 1935, McLaughlin started his career at 17. He's drawn ranks for comics like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Captain America, The Avengers. He's worked on comic strips like Gil Thorpe and Nancy. Thanks to the way things were done back in the 60s, he's probably done more stuff than he's been credited for. Now a professor of art, Mr. McLaughlin teaches visual storytelling and cartooning at Pear College of Art in Hamden, Connecticut. His work has earned him the reputation as one of America's leading illustrators in the female form. Take that, Ed Bettis. He is also working on a project with his daughter called The White Viper. In our interview, McLaughlin talks about the webcomic as well as his late friend and mentor, Dick Giordano. Then we ended up in a mild debate about the future of comics. Okay, so I'm an unprofessional slug. I'm just going to go die of embarrassment. Enjoy the interview anyway.
Hi, my name is Frank McLaughlin. I've been a cartoonist since 1955 professionally. I've worked for DC, Marvel, Charlton, and a myriad of other publishers, comic publishers. I've done a lot of commercial work for Major League Baseball and a lot of corporate work. But my main interest has always been in comics. I've had two How to Draw books published. One is called How to Draw Those Bodacious Bad Babes of Comics. I swear that's the real. The other one is How to Draw Comic Book Monsters. And I brought some of the artwork here.
I'll film that
to show you. And presently, we're working on this. Maybe you can get a shot of the White Viper recreation cover here. And it's a Dick Giordano and I have been friends since mid-50s. And we decided to do the White Viper. And my daughter is the writer, Erin Holroyd. And IDW decided to publish it, which we're very happy about.
I think I ran into that online. Was it posted online someplace?
It was on Comic Mix.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mike Gold's station. And sad to say, Dick died in the process of producing this book. The last 5 or 6 pages were penciled by myself, as well as inking the book. But Dick worked from what turned out to be his deathbed in the hospital. This is a guy that never missed a deadline, right up until the day he died. So obviously it's his last effort in comics. I lost a very good friend and mentor, and we shared a studio together back in the 50s. Up until the time he went to work at DC as an editor. I went along with him as a freelancer. Did a lot of work for DC and Marvel over the years since then. And we all miss him. He was a terrific influence. He was the kind of guy that would take somebody who was a beginning artist and really help him, give him some good pointers on not only drawing but storytelling, and whatever information he had, he was more than happy to share it with anybody, which is not something you find very often. And that's about it in a nutshell.
He really loved comics.
Oh, he sure did. And he would get up at 5 o'clock every morning, sometimes earlier, work freelance at home in Stratford, Connecticut, get on a train at 7:30, take the train to New York, come home at 5 o'clock, eat, and pass out. I mean, I don't know how he did it, but he did. And we're very happy with the way White Viper came out, and we've got a couple of people one guy in particular, a filmmaker, who we hope will go ahead and make a film with this character.
So what is White Viper about?
Well, it's not a superhero per se. It's hard to explain. It starts out in the Himalayas, where people would take their children, newborn, because they were starving to death, put them in a basket and take them up to a mountaintop and leave it there. Then the next person who was going to do it would bring their baby up, push off the one that was in front of them, and put their baby down. It was a practice that was done years ago.
Why would they do that?
Nearby, a bunch of monks are attacked by raiders, bad guys, and left for dead. They all died except one guy. It's in a storm, very wicked mountain storm. He was on his way to a monastery. They got lost and killed. This one guy is trying to call, trying to conserve his energy. He hears this noise. And what it was, we don't show it. We don't even show it was a baby yet. It was the baby crying. And he goes over and he finds the baby and looks up, and as the storm is breaking, he sees the monastery. So what had happened was the baby saved his life. He saved the baby's life. Now they have to keep track of each other for as long as they live. And that's how the story began. He's got this baby. The monks try to bring up the baby and everything else. Eventually, believe it or not, he he gets this formula, it's explained in the story, of how you can make plastic without the use of petroleum. Well, what would that do to gas? To be 10 cents a gallon, you know. So now everybody's after this formula. The big oil companies, Goliath Oil, the Arabs, they don't want to lose that deal. So now we're going after those two in the second issue, which is being written now. But we think it's an interesting story, well worth the read, and we'll see where it goes. The problem is nobody's publishing comics so much anymore, at least not stuff that they don't own.
Yeah.
DC and Marvel are using their own characters, and they're going to the coast to make movies. So I don't know what's going to happen to the printed comic. Anybody you know have any answers? There are smaller publisher things that help you publish your own comics, something like. Oh, sure, and there always was.
Like Indie Planet.
You can't distribute it. There's only one comic distributor, Diamond.
Yeah.
And what do? You come to a convention?
I've got my own issues with Diamond on this side.
Well, okay. But you go to a comic convention, you might sell, on a good day, you might sell 15 or 20 copies. But the artist hasn't been paid, the writer hasn't been paid, the colorist, the letterer. There was a time not too long ago where you could get financial backers who would give you money to produce a comic because they knew they could sell it. But those people aren't around anymore, not with comic book money. So it really, to produce a page of comics, if you count everything except maybe the coloring, it'll cost you, minimum like $500 a page. Write it, draw it, ink it, letter it. And if you're doing a 120-page graphic novel, that's more money than I got in my pocket. How about you? Oh, you got a Batman hat on there. You could probably sell that for a couple of bucks. So that's what's going on.
Have you looked into additional model? Because I know a lot of people who still enjoy making an actual hold-it-in-your-hand comic, but they still try to use...
Well, that's the obvious... This was, like I say, it was published first, the Comic Mix, and it's still in the archives there, comicmix.com, along with other comics done by other artists. But it's a different configuration for the iPad, from what I understand. And so, yeah, that may be the way to go. Again, the question is, how do you get paid?
Yeah, you got to go with advertising, and then there are sites where you can download comics that you pay a bit for, and then they make.
Well, yeah, but as long as there's comics on there for free, why would anybody want to subscribe? See, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's a point to it. But you also have to figure quality versus quantity.
Well, some comic readers aren't very discerning.
Trust me, I think if somebody had a choice between your comic and my comic, they'd rather read your comic.
Not necessarily.
You haven't read my comic.
Not necessarily.
It's not finished yet, but
there's plenty of. If you talk to comic readers who are 10 to 12 or 13 or 14, 15 years old, they don't know who Jack Kirby is. They don't know who Steve Ditko is. They don't know any of this. All they know is what they see on the TV screen.
That's all I knew when I was a kid.
Yeah. And if it doesn't move like a comic book, they're never going to bother with it. They're going to take it on the video. They're going to take it on TV or whatever. And so comic art is soon to become a thing of the past, I would think, as we know it.
I know a few comic artists online who would argue the point a bit, but
They what?
I know a few comic artists online who would argue the point a bit because they make comics for kids, and then there's a convention just for comics for kids called Kids Read Comics.
You know, the comics industry for years ignored the kids.
That's definitely a big problem.
And like I say, kids today turn to television. You know, Saturday morning, they're like this. Most mornings, if they're preschoolers.
If you watch a lot of stuff on Saturday morning, that's not a lot of the stuff that I grew up with on Saturday morning. It's just not there anymore.
No, it's not. No, but if somebody's watching it, otherwise it wouldn't be on.
Yeah, but
and stuff I looked at when I was growing up, like old Looney Tunes, which we used to see in the theater.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you'll see it on television. That's funny stuff.
Oh yeah.
The stuff now is
well, some of it is, but some of it is also just going for a different kind of comedy than the Looney Tunes did.
I don't laugh at the new stuff. I don't really.
Some of it I do, some of it I don't. Some of it you have to be in a certain mood in order to enjoy it.
What I'm saying, I guess, is the people you're talking to who I hope they're right. I hope they're right. I hope there's plenty of artwork to be done and plenty of stuff to be written. But it doesn't look that way to me. Newspapers are going out of business. I did Guilthorpe, which is a strip for the Chicago Tribune, for 8 years. I left them because they were at the brink of bankruptcy. They owned the Chicago Cubs. They sold them. What do they do that for? Well, they're going out of business. They're going bankrupt. Nobody's buying newspapers.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying comic books.
They're just trying to find a way to go online and make money through advertiser and subscriptions.
You can get, in a lot of cases, you can get the same bang for your buck on TV as you can advertising in a newspaper.
Yeah.
Look at some of your stations. There's a place in town in Stratford that sells appliances and so forth. I see them while I'm watching a Major League Baseball game or other big shows.
Well, I also know a lot of kids are watching their shows online. They'll go into websites, illegal sites or even legal sites like Hulu, and just sitting through maybe one ad every now and then just watching the show that way too. So a lot of things are going online, and people are trying to figure out how to.
I find that most of the people who buy my commissions are people who are not young. They don't even relate to what's being done today. They want to see stuff that was done back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And most of these people have jobs. You talk to some of the kids who are big fans today, they don't have any money to buy commissions. So any commissions I do, as you can see, they're very low priced. and I'm busy doing them.
Yeah. I in one form or another, I think that the comics will always be around. I prefer the offline comics because you don't have to worry about having your whatever charged up or anything. It's just
everybody wants to be told a story.
Yeah. Oh,
and there's plenty of people, a lot of them in this room, who can really draw very well. But they can't tell a story. They can't tell a story. So they can draw guys in poses and things like that, but to really put together a story, especially a 120-page graphic novel. But you got a lot of room to really develop characters. You couldn't do that in a 23-page comic book very well. So you had to use stereotypes. Yeah, you're right. Somehow it'll all work out. That's about it. Unless you have some questions.
Well, there's one question. What was your favorite title to work on?
Favorite what?
Favorite title to work on?
Probably the Batman. I worked on that for quite a while.
What made Batman so special? What made Batman so special?
Well, he put my kids through college.
Well, besides those biases.
I don't know. I just thought it was. I don't like some of the stuff that he's perceived as now.
Yeah, they've gone a little too darker now.
I ran out of ideas.
So you've been following the recent 52 relaunch?
Well, I just got copies of the Trial of the Flash. 580 some odd pages. Carmen and I did most of that work between us.
Yeah,
and I get stuff, the Marvel stuff that I did, Captain America, big phone book size.
You haven't been following the recent relaunch. They redid the whole.
I don't like what DC's doing.
They don't call it a reboot, but everything except Batman and Green Lantern has been rebooted essentially.
You don't see Coca-Cola or Kleenex or Swoosh, Nike. You don't see them monkeying around with their trademarks or their icons. You don't do that unless you're trying to self-destruct.
Well, they're thinking they have to modernize for a new audience, so they have to.
There's stories about why DC is doing it that I tend to believe, which I don't feel comfortable talking about now.
Yeah,
but
I got my own theories. Believe me, I've written them more than a few occasions.
We'll talk about it later. Yeah, I'm still a fan. Always will be. And I'm sure there'll be a place for us to tell stories. Probably the iPad, which is different configuration. But, we're hoping that our friends in Hollywood will go ahead and make a movie out of White Knight. But I'll still draw characters. I'll still draw stuff. Always.
On your deathbed?
I'm a fan. I've been, we're all the artists I know of are fans.
I think you have to be to do this.
You can't not do it. You can't not do it.
I've seen people who want to put together a comic just in the hopes that they'll make the movie that they really want. Like, I can't get this movie made. I'll make it a comic, then they'll want to make it a movie, and then it'll be awesome.
I guess there's a lot of that going on. The problem is that a lot of the stuff that was done in the past was done by Hollywood people, and they didn't rely enough on the comic book people. Oh, comic book writers. Who the heck cares about that? We have so-and-so. What does he know about comics? Well, he never read it, but he's going to read one tomorrow. That's no good. You got to get comic book people to work on it. Look what happened with the first Batman series. Crash, boom, bam, Robin. It was so corny. It was.
I don't care if it was corny. I loved it.
Sure.
Right?
How old were you?
Let's see, it was a few months ago last time I watched it. Still loved it.
Okay.
My favorite was probably the 90s cartoons that Fox had. Bruce Timm put together. DC animated universe with his version of Batman and Superman, and then later Justice League. Some of the best comic book cartoons I've seen.
I like the first couple of Batman movies. I really didn't think. What's the actor's name that was the first Batman? My memory shot.
Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton. At first I said, Michael Keaton. Well, he did a terrific job.
Yeah, nobody expected him to do it.
Nobody did. That
It was
I talked
awesome.
to. He was great.
Yeah,
Still is great.
Oh, yeah. I thought with Val Kilmer, who did Batman Forever, I thought he was a good enough Batman, but the script he was giving was horrible, so you couldn't really get to show what he could do.
Well, then you got contract problems. I don't know what it was with why Michael Keaton didn't do it again. Sure, he wanted more money. They want to give it to him or whatever.
He also changed the director too. Tim Burton left, and they brought in Joel Schumacher, which is the bane of many Batman fans' existence. Especially the fourth one he did, Batman and Robin. That movie is pretty much hated by everybody I've ever talked to.
It's got to have legs, same as a comic strip or a comic book series. It's got to have legs, and if the movie doesn't have legs, guess what? I mean, how many Superman movies do you think they're going to make?
Well, they're trying to make one now, but I've got my problems with the dark colors. Now he's got a darker colors.
I don't know how it's going to work out, but that's their decision.
Yeah. I got my own arguments on what DC.
What else do you want to hear about that I can help you with, if possible?
Well, I'm just going to let it sit on you for a moment. We're on the video, it'll fade out, and then I'm going to ask you the question for the other video I'm working on. So. The other final question I'm asking a lot of, is, do you have any advice for anybody who wants to get into comics? Putting that together into a separate video.
Well, assuming that there's going to be work. You have to draw 3 hours a day minimum, every day. You have to go back and get the Andrew Loomis books on drawing. Fun with a pencil. You got one on anatomy. You got one on, I don't know, it's 3 or 4 of them. You can get them online, page by page. Very important. That's the Bible that we were brought up with. People ahead of me and people behind me. And make it a point to talk directly with editors. Editors used to have a day put aside or a time put aside where they would interview prospective artists. Phone them, make an appointment if they'll see you. They might be out looking for a job themselves. Sad to say. And remember that you will be one of maybe 30, 40, 50 people that day who are looking for work in comics. I would suggest there's a theory. If you come into a corporation or a business, you come in through the front door and you work your way up the ladder over a course of years.
I know
you might become a senior vice president in charge of whatever. But if you enter the building and there's nobody ahead of you, you go right to the top. That's a theory called expanse in a vacuum. And if you can afford to do it, and you feel really strong about your characters or what it is you want to do, I suggest do it. Because if you don't, there'll come a time in your life later on when you'll regret it. At least you could say is I took my shot, it didn't work. You got to take a shot. It helps to know somebody who's already in the business. wangle a job doing backgrounds or erasing pages or whatever it takes. Make it a point to deliver it yourself. Don't rely on a man. So look, I'm going to New York. I'll bring the stuff in tomorrow. Now the editor puts a face to it. Oh, you're the guy that works for so-and-so. Yeah. So-and-so is looking for background help. Can you give it to her? Now you got it. Okay. You know? So, don't quit. Don't quit.
You gotta give me my notes.